Okay, the highest grossing film in Malaysia last year was Sheriff, 64 million. The lowest grossing film was below 10,000. People are now very selective on what they watch in the cinema.
Is there a particular type of pressure that you face when adapting something as iconic or someone as iconic as Keluang into the big screen?
Definitely. I mean, you can imagine the pressure, right?
You're not going to say much more about Keluang.
I mean, try not to.
How do you find that balance, making a movie that elevates the art and making a movie that will just be a crowd pleaser?
Interesting question. Okay,
I know, right? Project High Council, Project Anchor SPM explore universal themes, right? Like bullying and hazing, yet remain quite Malaysian in context. How much thought goes into that?
A lot of thought.
And welcome to another episode of the Shock Podcast Live Confessions. Today, another special guest joins us, Raja Jastina Raja Arshad. She is the head of Astro Shaw, and we're going to talk about you as well as film and TV in Malaysia. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Terry.
I'm really excited because we're going to start kind of at the beginning. Share with us some insights into your upbringing itself. Like, what was that like growing up, and finally, what led to you being so interested in film and TV?
Okay, I guess my upbringing, before the age of like 13, 14, there was no internet.
I was there.
So I'm that old. There's no satellite TV. So I think in terms of entertainment, it was really like outdoor activities or TV, and it'd be like a family affair. So I recall like really watching like Mira Edora, Ali Setan, 2+1, and then I was like, oh my god, they're so pretty. They're like so. I really enjoyed it. And I remember as well, like after school on Friday, 2 p.m. I'll switch on. I think it was TV2, RTM2, and watching a Hindi movie. I can't remember what it was, but every Friday I'll be watching a different Hindi movie, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. So like that was like my kind of TV consumption during that time. And I also recall like my sister and I, like at 9 p.m, I can't remember what day it was, would be hiding. It was really sleeping because we were like, 9 years old, and we were watching Baywatch. So watching all these TV shows, and what we try to do is also reenact them. Like at home, we'll be like, okay, we're in high school, like in, like exactly what we saw on TV. But in terms of the cinema, I actually started going to the cinema for the first time ever was when I was 13. And it was actually my alone time with my mom. And it was actually a local film. And the local film was actually Sembilu.
I remember.
Directed, created by Datuk Yusof Haslam. So I watched Sembilu 1, Sembilu 2, Maria, Mariana. And it's kind of surreal that now I'm actually working with him.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
How does that feel? Like,
it's pretty surreal. I mean, like, my mom was still around. She'd be like, oh my God. Yeah.
Like, when you first, was it a gradual realization that you're doing the thing that you used to enjoy just experiencing?
Yeah,
or did it all come at once?
It was definitely a gradual realization.
Right.
To see like, oh my God, he's next to me. Oh my God, I'm collaborating with him. It was pretty surreal and now, pretty fantastic.
This is just to quell my own curiosity. Baywatch, right?
Yes, Baywatch, yeah.
Who was your favorite character? Do you remember?
I like Yasmin.
Yasmin
Bleeth. I thought she was so pretty.
Yeah. Yasmin Bleeth.
Yeah, Bleeth. Yeah, she was so pretty.
Am I embarrassed that I remember the name? Okay, let's move on.
That's how old we are, Terry.
You mean how young we are? That's how young we are.
Yeah, how young we are, yeah.
Now, as the head of Astro Shaw, you oversee both creative and financial decisions while leading multiple projects and teams. How do you navigate the pressures of making all these key choices and, managing expectations of people who rely on your leadership?
Okay, I think like firstly, I'm very grateful to Astro for giving me all these opportunities because I have been in Astro for over 19 years. It's my first job. So I have gained a lot of experiences. I've actually gone through different divisions as well. So I quite different kind of skill sets. I've also formed my group of friends as well. And then I have a great team. And peers who are also friends. And because we understand each other and I also learned the ropes, it's not that it's easy, but it's a lot easier to just focus on what we need to get done. And so the pressure is not, you're not being distracted by other things. You're just focusing on getting this job done, and you do it in the best way possible with no unnecessary distractions. Right? And I think that really helps minimize any pressure and allows you to then make a decision in the best way possible. And when it comes to pressure, we're in the entertainment industry, so we're actually supposed to to remove all the pressure and the stress from other people.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and actually it really helps that we love what we do. Right? So that also minimizes that pressure. And you talked about managing expectations. I don't really call it managing expectations because I think if you understand each other, you don't really have to manage one expectation. So it's similar to like just say my parents, right? I don't think they have to manage my expectations because I kind of know what they expect. So with my team, I think I would like to think that I know them well enough and they know me well enough that there is no expectations to manage, right? Because if there is management expectations, I mean there is a gap of understanding each other.
I want to work for you now.
And I really hope my main goal is to make sure that every single one of my team members actually know me and vice versa, that I know them as well, right? So we can improve in that way. Yeah.
One thing that's been this phrase that's come up in recent years is that whole work-life balance that everybody seems to be finding. What do you think about this idea? I call it an idea because I don't have it.
Yeah.
But this idea about work-life balance.
I think it's important to have that work-life balance. But again, because we're entertainment industry, what we do is also quite very entertaining. And I think the fact that we are very passionate about what we do is that we'll be working like at 12 a.m. or over the weekends and we don't realize that we're actually working because we actually love what we do, right?
Yeah.
But having said that, like, the mental health and wellness is very important. So like for me personally, like every Friday, I try every Friday, is where I go for like my sound bath or like, try to play pickle, tennis. That was try to find that balance to just have other forms of activity and do other things other than just work, right? Yeah.
You seem to have done it well because having you here in front of us now, you don't seem like you're exhausted. You seem like you got all this energy, and I'm going to need to take a page out of what you're doing right so that I can...
It must be the energy that you are giving out, Terry.
You are way too kind. You're way too kind, although I'll ask the producers to keep that in mind. Yes, please. Okay, now filmmaking is an uncertain journey, right? Where years of effort may result in either great success or disappointment, but the project itself can take you on a long journey. How do you come to terms with the risk of like sometimes investing so much time and energy without knowing whether that final product or project will actually like pay off?
Yeah. But I think taking risk is not unique to the film industry. I think in all businesses there is a risk, right? As in like ultimately it's taking calculated risk. And Astro Shaw, we have a pretty huge scale. So just say, for example, we have 10 films that we tend to release.
Right.
Not all 10 films we know is going to be a hit. There'll be some misses as well, right? But what we do is we look at it in its whole entirety. And from there, we will make sure that the whole thing becomes a success, right? And I think one of the things that we've seen over the years is the financial success and the growth that we've been facing in the industry has shown that we're able to navigate this risk in the best way possible because we've been growing year on year and we're very thankful for that.
Right. It's been years since the pandemic happened. Has the pandemic affected the film industry in Malaysia?
It has yet to recover. So just to give you some numbers, like pre-pandemic, I think the total GBO was around 1 billion.
Right.
Last year, it's around 800 million.
GBO is global box office?
Yeah, gross box office.
Gross box office.
Gross box
Okay.
office. So
Got
just
it.
purely just in Malaysia. Just focus on Malaysia.
Okay.
So pre-pandemic was 1 billion GBO, gross box office. And now, last year was on 800 million and the year before was on 800 million as well. So we've yet to reach that 1 billion mark that we used to achieve. And at the same time, we've increased number of halls and the ticket price has gone up. But yet, our GBO numbers hasn't gone up yet. So there is still certain things that need to take place and areas of improvement that we need to do as a industry player. Yeah.
Have you seen a change in like viewing habits when it comes to what people now appreciate?
Definitely. now I feel, because obviously after the cinema release, I mean, in terms of windowing, let's just think about cinema release. And after cinema, there is your pay-per-view. And after pay-per-view is the OTT platforms such as your Netflix, your Disney, your Amazon. Then after that, it goes onto your pay TV and then free to air, right? So previously, pre-pandemic, the window between cinema release and the OTT platforms is actually was pretty long, right? But now it's shortened. And when it's shortened, then there is that some people are willing to wait,
right?
instead of watching the movie
they won't
in the
rush
cinema.
to the cinema.
So they will rush if it's worth it.
Right.
So now what we've seen is that people are more selective. They're definitely more selective, and because they're more selective, it also provides us a motivation to up our game. Right? So you can see that that's why it's the first time ever in the past 3 years, a local movie holds the number 1 position in the Malaysian chart. So for example, in the past, it would be like Endgame and all of that, right? But in 2022, it was Mat Kilau.
Wow.
2023, it was Police Evo 3. 2024 is Sheriff. And number 2 and number 3 was a Hollywood blockbuster.
Right.
So it's amazing. So it's, although we have yet to recover, but the local film, the ones that people are willing to watch, has really grown bounds, right? So
that's definitely impressive.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
But just to give some context, like that's the highest grossing film in Malaysia last year was Sheriff, 64 million. But the lowest grossing film, local film, was below 10,000 ringgit.
Right.
So there is a huge disparity there because people are now very selective on what they watch in the cinema, because it takes a lot of effort. I mean, you're going to your car, you're going up the escalator in the shopping mall, you're going buy your popcorn, and you're going to sit down and spend 2 hours in your time with your phone away.
Yeah.
Right?
When you put it like that, it
this
makes
movie
it even more,
has to be worth it, right? Other than you watching on TV where you can have multiple devices, you can, it's very easy, you don't go through traffic. So we as filmmakers now really have to up our game, and that's what we're trying to do. And it's great to see that Malaysians now have also found local content more attractive, and we can see it, right? Yeah.
Very exciting, right? These are times where you're seeing change happen, not just in terms of what's on the screen, but how the audience reacts to what they could possibly be watching. Now, the Malaysian cinema has evolved significantly over the years, some people would say, right? Do you think we found a distinct identity, or is it still, are we still finding our footing and, defining ourselves?
I think it's ever evolving. It's not going to be set in stone because of a few factors, right? Audience preferences, behavior, as well as technology advances. All of this will result in things changing.
Right.
And we're not able to just say, okay, we sorted out our identity, this is what it is. We're constantly redefining it, right? So
is that part of the joy, and is that why you also enjoy what you do, because it's never stagnant?
Yeah, it's never stagnant. It's really fast moving. I mean, you could say, like, in a way, content is a fast moving consumer good, right? Yeah.
There was a time when people would say, there was a time when I was younger, that people would say movies were the ultimate goal of a person who was in industry, right? Whether you're an actor or a producer or a director, your goal was to become a movie maker. But it would seem that over the course of the last decade or so, TV shows have found a footing, and in fact, in many ways, proven itself to be even more engaging and more challenging than movies. What do you think when it comes to, what are your thoughts on this whole movies versus TV issue?
Well, the great thing what we do is we do both.
Right.
In Astro Shaw, so we actually produce movies, which is for cinema release. We also produce premium drama series for the TV platform. TV platform is not confined to just linear TV, but also your on-demand, your OTT platform as well. And they both have their benefits, right? So I think it depends on the consumer kind of preference. And I don't think one is going to cannibalize the other. Right. They both are going to coexist.
And grow
together. Because, to give you an example, we released High Council. Project High Council. Huge phenomenon, right? And the interest there was so high. And we then produced Kaha, the movie,
Yeah.
because of the success that we experienced with High Council.
Right.
So you can see how it actually complements each other, right? It's from a TV series becomes a movie.
Yeah.
So, and for example, we also have like what's coming up, Keluang Man, right? Keluang Man was a TV series,
Yeah.
an animated TV series, and it's also a comic. And now for the first time ever, bring it to a live action. So it really is not like replacing each other, TV versus cinema.
Yeah.
It actually can complement each other to really expand the fan base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you brought up Keluang Man because, we want to find out like what are the challenges and opportunities that you've encountered in adapting like an iconic like
Everyone's asking
character.
that question.
Yeah, like Keluang Man, everyone knows who he is. Into a live action film, is there a particular type of pressure that you face when adapting something as iconic or someone as iconic as Keluang Man into the big screen?
Definitely. I mean, you can imagine the pressure, right? I mean, this is Malaysia's first superhero.
Yeah.
Right? And it has already a very strong, loyal fan base. And Keluang Man is in the hearts of many Malaysians.
Right.
So the pressure is tremendous.
I can hear the theme song in my head now.
So we're trying to make sure that we remain true to the story. But one thing that that's also quite unique is the fact that it's the first time ever that Keluang Man has been put into a live action format.
Right.
So there isn't like a formula that we're supposed to follow. We can actually be quite imaginative on how we tell the story, right? So it's really about how do we find that balance between realism and fantastical elements, and making into this film that everyone want to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because I think what we have to do is we have the existing fan base, but also those who may not know about Keluang Man. How do we get them to the cinema and be excited about this, right? Yeah.
You're not going to say much more about Keluang Man.
I mean, try not to. Because
I feel it. I feel like you're not going to... I'm trying to dig up some details here and we're not getting those... Okay, but we're going to have to wait for more when we see like more trailers come
Yes.
out. Okay.
So we release certain trailers. I mean, you all know also our partners, Wanda Coffee. So even before the movie gets released, we're seeing huge traction in terms of people wanting to buy the Keluang Man edition Wanda Coffee.
Yeah.
Right? So...
Exciting.
There's potential there.
Absolutely. Now, you've mentioned streaming platforms and how they're such a big part now about the viewing experience. How is Astro Shaw adapting its content strategy to align with the growing prominence of streaming services?
So I think, as I mentioned before, like we are doing two things, right? We are actually we produce films for cinema release, and we also produce premium drama series Astro Originals for the TV space. These two formats actually do get released on the streaming platform.
Oh, right.
Eventually. I mean, it goes on Astro Go and on demand, and even on the global streaming platform, it gets onto Netflix and the other platforms at a later stage. And I think the one thing that's great to see is that when we are actually in the charts of those streaming platforms, because it's actually non-biased to an Astro platform, it's actually on a platform that we have no control over. And to see, like, for example, High Council, Anchor SPM, became like number 1 in the Malaysian charts, in top 10 in other countries. Sheriff in few countries, it was in top 10. The Experts, our film that we also released last year. One Cent Thief was also like, in the top 10 for Philippines, Singapore, on top of Malaysia. So I think that's exciting.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
You've got so much going on. I don't even know how you found the time to sit down here with us today, right? Okay, this question, I'm going to try to ask it without sounding too crude. But when it comes to movies, there are always two aspects of it that are often discussed when it comes to making a movie. One is that you need to make a movie that is going to do well financially. And on the flip side, you kind of need to sometimes make a movie that's for the sake of the art form as well. And these two don't always intersect, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to doing that, how do you find that balance of making a movie that elevates the art and making a movie that will just be a crowd pleaser?
Okay. Interesting question. Okay,
I
so
know, right?
Okay, in Astro Shaw, our goal is to create great Malaysian stories. That's the key thing. So these great Malaysian stories, one could be commercially viable. The other one could be critically acclaimed.
Right.
Another one could be stories that we need to tell. Like, these are stories that we need to highlight and make sure that Malaysians are aware of, right?
Yeah.
So it's about finding that right balance, because our main goal is telling great stories. And in areas where, for example, they're not commercially viable, there's always other means that we'll find to generate revenue through other avenues, right? There is internal distribution, there is sponsorship, there is other streams. So because at the end of the day, Astro Shaw is a business, right? We have to make sure that we are financially sound, because the commercially viable projects will be able to support the non-commercially viable projects. Because we've got to find the right balance.
Yeah, it seems to be working, because speaking of commercially viable projects, Project High Council, Project Anchor SPM explore universal themes, right? Like bullying and hazing, yet remain quite Malaysian in context. How do you ensure that while tackling universal issues like these, your projects still stay authentically Malaysian and relatable to a local audience as well? How much thought goes into that?
A lot of thought. So all of our films and our Astro original series are authentically Malaysian. They're uniquely Malaysian. I mean, the characters, the concept, the story, they're all authentically Malaysian, right? However, the storytelling, the method of telling the story is universal. And I think the bonus with High Council, taking that as an example, is that the theme that we covered for Malaysians is also universally accepted. Right? But it's our main priority is Malaysian first. Yeah.
And it seems to be cutting through, because the amount of conversations that have happened even at dinner tables surrounding Project High Council and the themes that were brought up, I'm sure it's something that you're very proud of. You've heard about this.
Yeah. I think one thing great about High Council is that it really bridges different generations. I had a friend of mine was telling me that how she was had date night with her 12-year-old son to watch High Council. And it's a time, because she's a single mom, and this is a time when they come together. She was like, oh my God, it's the first time like my son and I are really enjoying to watching a show together. So, and then I think like on social media, we'll see like, oh yeah, my father told me that this happened to him in his school as well. And to see like, it really brings all the different generations come together to talk about this story.
To see real life happen on the screen and relate to it, not just in some thematic way, but also to see like your real life, what you live every day appear on the screen to remind you of what you yourself struggle with is definitely something that we as Malaysians appreciate, right? Now, speaking of generations, how does Astro Shaw approach the discovery and nurturing of like new talent within the Malaysian film industry? Because it's a very challenging industry.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's challenging, and I think the pool of talents as well, the supply isn't as great as other countries, So, but that's why we make it a priority to unearth new talents, and also to provide creative talents opportunities to try a new format. So to give an example, Raja Sham, he directed Kaha.
Okay.
He also directed Anchor SPM. He also directed our horror movie Pusaka. And prior to that, he was more of an independent director. So in collaboration with Astro Shaw, he was able to get into the commercial side.
Right.
And, Pusaka generated over like 14 million in the box office.
Right.
And so that was great. That was like, great for all of us. And so that's what we try to do. We try to give them opportunities to do something different, and it's elevate their skill sets. So Alfie Palamo, who showrunned One Cent Thief, right? Prior to Astro Shaw, he was actually one of those most sought after writers. But with us, he became a showrunner. He was able to bring to life his ideas, the story that he was telling. And just most recently, One Cent Thief Season 2, he made his directorial debut.
Wow.
So it's about, providing all these opportunities through what we have. And we just finished shooting Abah Saya Uncle Mike. It's our first drama inspired by a true story. That is directed by Ezri. Ezri is part of our team, and he started off producing and directing Gempa original series, a digital series. So now he's making his directorial debut as well. As producing a feature film.
Right.
So what we're trying to do here is really have the ultimate creative playground
Right.
that will allow one is to unearth new talents, but also to provide new opportunities and enhance the skill sets of existing creative talents.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, as a person who is such a huge enthusiast of film, the industry, TV, what's something that you yourself can see yourself watching over and over again over the years that you keep going back to and still find joy in watching?
Actually, it depends on my moment. So
okay.
like, it's just yesterday actually I was feeling hungry because it's fasting month.
Right.
So I was watching 100-Foot Journey.
Oh.
You know, so I've watched that a few times already.
Okay.
Right? So like Friends is something that is my background music.
Right.
I can watch it over and over and again, still laugh.
Could it be more funny?
Yeah, it could be more funny. And then the issues that they go through is so much relevant. It's not relevant today.
Yeah, you're right. Like
yeah.
the friendships that they share and also the kind of issues like we were on a break.
Yeah.
It's always something that even till today, someone you know is probably going through that same situation. So, you know, it's interesting how that's what TV, I think, and movies do for a lot of us. It gives us shared experiences before we meet people. Because you've watched Friends, I've watched Friends, for example, and even though if we had not had this conversation or I had not met you before, it gives us something to say, hey, we've still had this shared experience. Do you find now there's so much content, right, that it's harder to get this shared experience feeling with other people because there's so much for us to consume?
Can I ask you a question, Terry?
Sure.
When was the last time you watched a movie in the cinema?
Okay, honestly, right? It was like a month ago.
A month ago?
Yeah.
Who did you watch it with?
Alone, actually. I watched it alone. I'm not always this sad, though. This turned into a therapy session.
But I was trying to understand. Do you recall the experience that you had when you watched the movie?
I do, because I paid so much for it.
So what I'm trying to just share is that when it comes to movies, I feel it provides a shared experience. But you watch the movie alone.
I know,
so
right?
That's a bit different.
Yeah.
But normally when I ask my friends or people that I meet and I say, what was the last movie that you watched? And then they say, oh yeah, I watched a movie. And then they're able to relay the experience that they had with the person they watched it with or the group of friends because movie somehow brings everyone together.
Can you give them my number? Then I'll go watch a movie with them next.
Brings them together, so it becomes like, you know, it's like, let's watch this community experience, right? Yeah.
Yeah, which is exactly what it provides for. And is that harder now to make that happen? Because I know you mentioned earlier, that when it comes to like getting people to even get off their couches to make their way to the cinema, it takes more effort, right? But is there a difference between like people who are below 20 and those, like, are there age group differences when it comes to how they view things, whether at home or in the cinema?
Yeah, definitely. Just to share, in terms of the cinema goers right now, the age group is your Gen Zs, right? So we definitely do need to provide not just a viewing experience. It has to be I think the film itself becomes an experience. So the delivery of the story and I guess the surrounding environment becomes key to make it like worth their while. So as you can see, even like cinemas have also stepped it up, like in terms of what they offer. I mean, like now some cinemas have massage chairs.
Yeah.
Right? Massage chairs, beds, hot pot.
Yeah.
Right? So everyone has stepped up their game to provide it like a different kind of experience to get people going to the cinema and enjoy watching movie in a different kind of way instead of just it's a one-way kind of a viewing experience. Yeah.
Knowing that there are all these options out there and the landscape of what it looks like now for both audiences and for the industry, looking ahead, what are your aspirations for Astro Shaw and the Malaysian film industry, let's say in the next 5 years?
You know what's our aspiration?
Yeah.
Is to go global. You know, to put Malaysian stories on the global map.
Right.
And when I say global map, I don't mean like just film festival. I mean like out there, you know, like to get commercial success. That's something that we have yet to achieve. No Malaysian film has achieved that. So I think that's what we hope to be able to achieve with our fellow industry players.
Because we've got so many of these great stories that we share from our history, from culture, right? Like even when we talk sometimes about I'll give an example. Like one thing that we all share is that ghost story that happened in the tunnel, the Karak Highway one, right? They made a movie about that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But to see that flashed out in a way that would include like a shared experience is something that I would look forward to. Like, can you share with us what are some upcoming projects that you could tease us with?
Geez, a
Yeah.
few. We
Okay.
actually do have around 10 films releasing
10?
this year. Yeah.
10,
It's
okay.
in collaboration with our partners because we're a
Right.
big fan of collaboration. So like coming up first on the 17th of April is Kodrat 2.
Okay.
It's our we've co-produced a film with our Indonesian partners. It's led by Magma Entertainment and Rapi Films. So Charles Ghazali is such a talented director. I mean, Terry, if you want to watch a movie that has
Okay.
action,
Okay.
thriller, horror, and superhero,
Okay.
Kodrat 2 is one you should watch.
I'm writing it
Yeah,
down.
should watch.
Okay.
Then we have Keluang Man after that.
Yes.
We have Keluang Man, we have Abba Saya Uncle Mike, we have Kawarij by Shamsul Yusuf. You know, his first horror movie after a long time. His last one was Munafik 2.
Oh my gosh. That
Yeah.
was scary.
Yeah, we have Magic Rompa with Adrian Tay. We have Baran with Joel So from Black Flag.
Right.
We have One to Go with our Malaysia's first battle royale,
Right.
which we have produced with Infinitus.
Right.
We have so many. We have Papa Zola with
What's Papa Zola
Papa
about?
Zola. That's also a franchise. It's from Bobo Boy.
Oh
Bobo
my God, Bobo
We
Boy.
have Mekamato.
Yes.
We have Papa Zola.
Right.
So animation. So we have a huge variety of films that are coming out this year.
I have little nieces and nephews who are going to be very excited.
Please.
Because I have watched Bubble Boy more times than an adult should. No, okay. Before we let you go, we need to ask you rapid fire questions now. Hope you're ready for this.
All right,
Okay.
then, bring it
what
on.
comes to mind is what you must immediately answer. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Best movie you've seen recently.
Lucky Basker.
Worst advice you've ever been given in your life.
You shouldn't take Malay because the Malay is not good. Malay business. I shouldn't go on to the. I shouldn't. I shouldn't join the Malay business team
Right.
because my Malay isn't good.
And you've proven.
I would like to
yeah,
think so.
I'm wrong. Yes. Now, if you had to describe your leadership style in one word, what would it be?
Fair.
Fair. What's the most memorable moment of your career so far?
Oh, there's too many. Terry.
Oh, okay. Name what comes to mind.
I guess when my name appeared on screen for the first time and seeing my father's expression when he saw it meant the world to me.
I know this is supposed to be rapid fire, but I have to ask more about this. What was that moment like when you saw your?
I was looking at my dad. I wasn't even at the screen.
Yeah.
You know, just to see him like, my dad was proud of me. You know, yeah.
Did he say something when it happened?
Well, obviously after he did, but
Yeah.
at that moment in time, because we actually sit quite far away. But yeah, I could
Didn't
just,
even need words.
yeah, no words. Okay,
Wow.
just his expression was enough for me.
Wow. Even now, as you're telling it, I can tell like how that
Yeah.
meant so much to you. Wow, thank you for sharing that. If you weren't in the entertainment industry, what would you be doing instead right now?
Okay, so actually before I joined Astro, I actually had a couple of options. So like FMCG or advertising. So I guess it's one of those. But also what I always like imagine doing is interior design.
Interior design?
Yeah.
Wow.
I just like looking at, houses and how I could renovate it and all of that. Because I
can
just
see
recently
the
renovated
thoughts.
my apartment, so I'm like
Right.
thinking all these ideas, right? Yeah.
If you could cameo in any project that you've done, which one would it be?
How do you know I haven't?
That was going to be my next question, actually. Have you?
How do you know I haven't?
Oh, do I have to scroll through the...
Might have to.
So does that mean you've actually been in one or two?
You take a look and you let me know.
I will write. This is my homework today. Look up Raja Jastina. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. We asked this of all of our guests. If you had the opportunity to make one change as Prime Minister of Malaysia for a day, right? Just one day, what would it be and why?
Well, Terry,
Yeah.
I'm already the first female prime minister, so I've already made the change.
That's a good point. You'll just take a photo and I'm done, right? Have that mic drop moment.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. It's been so refreshing having you here with us to share not just your journey, but also your experience and your thoughts on the industry. It's exciting to see where it's going to go from here.
Well, thanks for having me, Terry. I mean, I hope you found it insightful and you learned something.
It was so much that we've learned, in fact, that I think I have one last question for you, right? Like you're a person who has been through so so much, right? Is there something about yourself that you feel people always get wrong when they meet you, or even before they meet you? Like, they get it wrong about you.
I'm sure there is, but they haven't said it to my face. Maybe. But I think this goes back to, this about the worst advice, right? I mean, that was already judging me, thinking that because at that time, my Malay wasn't great, that I won't be able to do this job properly. So that's already a judgment that one made, right? Yeah.
You don't have to deal with that because you just have to live the life that you want, and you're doing it already.
So I think I'm a great believer of just, you know yourself best, and the people around you knows you really well. Just focus on that and prove all the others wrong, and let the naysayers will always be. You can't change people's minds, like you, but it's how you actually respond to it. Is how you deal with it, right?
And make a movie about it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to Raja Jastina for joining us today. We appreciate you, and maybe see you in a movie theater someday real soon as well. We can have a shared experience.
Yes, you got to come to the Keluang
Absolutely.
Gala premiere, okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll be ready for that. I'll be wearing the costume and everything.
Okay,
Thank
then.
you so much.
Thanks, Terry, for having me.